Morgan, thank you so much for joining the podcast. We're very excited to have a conversation today with you. Just to give you a little bit of background on Morgan, not just an injector, right? But she is one of the rarest credential aesthetic nurses in the country, building a luxury med spa brand from the ground up in a small town in South Carolina while finishing her NP degree, raising 2 kids, and maintaining a satellite practice in Kentucky. Her story is about what happens when an elite clinical skill meets entrepreneurial life. A bootstrap practice that broke $100K in the second month with 0 pay ads, pure referral, and a reputation built on natural results and radical patient education. The episode is today. It's about getting to know Morgan and highlighting some of her entrepreneurial fire. So Morgan, thank you so much for joining. For those joining for the first time, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, briefly introduce yourself, and tell us a background.
Amazing. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's truly a pleasure to be a part of what you guys are trying to build and achieve in teaching other entrepreneurs how to thrive in this industry and other industries. So very, very happy to be here. A little bit about me. I'm celebrating my 10th year in the medical aesthetics industry this May. I was a cardiac ICU nurse by trade, worked for Trauma One Hospital in Kentucky, and realized very quickly that was not for me. Went to apply to nurse practitioner school and got in. While I made the jump to private practice plastic surgery and started from the bottom there, worked my way all the way to the top. So I was pre-opping, circulating in the OR, recovering. Then I moved up to clinic. Then I did, pre-post-op, and then into management. And that's where I really laid and found my foundation and love for the aesthetic patient. So for those of you listening or have no idea about the aesthetics industry, when you go to nursing school, NP school, PA school, MD, DO, they don't teach you about the aesthetics industry. You learn by shadowing other physicians, nurse practitioners, nurses, people in the industry, and you get a lot of hands-on training. So they don't teach you how to assess a patient's face. You may have a skin lecture, but that's it. So I found my love for aesthetics there, and it built my foundation on how to be a really ethical provider, because now as an injector, I worked for really phenomenal plastic surgeons, so I can look at my patients and very ethically say, hey, you are a surgical candidate. I can only take you so far, or if you're not interested, if surgery is not in the cards for you, I can get you a 20% improvement or a 30% improvement. And for some people, that's okay. But I really pride myself in being able to say, hey, like if you have the money and the downtime, go get a facelift. It's the gold standard for skin laxity. You're still going to need me for, volume replacement. You're still going to need me for static and dynamic lines with neuromodulator. But so it laid my ethics and, foundation there. So, when I left there, I took a bit of a sabbatical, and then it wasn't for me because I'm a very outgoing, bubbly person. I missed patient-facing care, and I had a rep call me because I used to be I helped order a lot of the injectables. And so I had already built a relationship with the Galderma rep, and the Galderma rep called me and said, hey, do you still want to inject? And I said, absolutely. And she said, well, the top practice in Lexington's hiring. I can get you a job tomorrow if you want to interview. And I said, sure. So took that job, and I took a huge pay cut to go in. And I took a bit of a hit to my pride, which is kind of what you have to do in the aesthetics industry. You make yourself less than so you can work under someone that's really freaking good to make yourself better. And so I did that. And she was a game trainer. For those of you who don't know, that's like Galderma. She trains for the company. Very seasoned injector. And I basically absorbed everything that she had to learn or to teach me, and went through a pretty rigorous 3-month apprenticeship, if you will, under their practice. But they had never hired a nurse, and they were very hesitant on hiring a nurse. They almost felt like, mid-levels were superior. And that was really hard for me because I know who I am and I know what my potential is, but they didn't know. And I was the only nurse they had ever hired as an injector. So they didn't know what they were getting into. After I came off the 3-month apprenticeship, I hit $100,000 my first month. And they were just like, who is this girl? Like, where did she come from? And in that practice, I hit $1 million my first year, and as a
Wow.
baby injector. So I had 2 kids at the time. They were very young. And I said, you know what? Like, I don't want to sit here and twiddle my thumbs until 5 o'clock to punch a clock timeout. Like, I want to leave. And so I presented myself and I said, I want to work Monday through Thursday, 9 to 3, and then I'm going to leave. And they said, well, you can't maintain your numbers. And I said, watch me. So I did. And I hit almost 1.2 million that year, working 40 hours less a month than every other provider there. I again was pushed down a bit by my ambition, always striving to do more. And there was something that happened that kind of like broke the straw that broke the camel's back that caused me to leave. I had an opportunity present itself in South Carolina. I fired out my resume and got put in touch with someone that was building a business here. And they said, they were an entrepreneur, knew nothing about the industry, literally zero. And I said, what makes you like think that you can get into this industry? You have no idea what you're doing. We're actually practicing medicine. This is not just something that you get into to make money. And they said, well, that's what we have you for. And I thought, that's kind of ballsy, but okay. So next thing you know, he looked at me and said, like, what is it going to take for you to move here? Because I'm not getting up from this table without you telling me yes. And we moved 3 weeks later. Helped him build that practice from the ground up. It was still in studs, branded everything from their website to their service menu, onboarded their SOPs, their protocols, all the things. Built a training program for the other injectors to follow me, was actively training someone. When I moved here, I didn't know a single person, not a single person where I live. It's very affluent. People have their second and third homes, and it's either small young families or 55 and older. Like, that's our demographic. And so established a very large patient base in about 10 months and was doing phenomenal. And then we didn't really see eye to eye on a few things, had a big falling out. I resigned sight unseen that day, walked out of the building, never walked back in. And when I tell you I ran everything, like, they didn't have their own passwords. They didn't know their reps information, like nothing. They didn't know how to pay their invoices for their injectables. Like, I was the clinical manager, ran everything on that end. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what just happened? What did I just do? I have uprooted my entire family to come here, my kids, my husband, and learned a hard lesson. I put my work ahead of my family for that small stage of my life. And that was something that a lot of people learn the hard way. And I did.
Yeah.
And so we flew to Mexico and day drank for like 5 days because we were like, what are we going to do? So I had a practice in Lexington call me that said, hey, like, do you want to buy this practice? And I said, no, I don't want to live in Lexington, but I still have a patient base there. And she was like, well, to supplement your income while you figure out what you're doing, like, come here, see patients, and you'll figure it out. So then I had a lot of people like blowing up my phone, blowing up my Instagram, because the other practice, they had no backup plan. And I had a full book, right? And so they're calling people like, hey, like, Morgan's not going to be here. My phone was flooded. Like, where are you going? I'm not going anywhere else. No one else is touching my face. They're not telling me where you're going, what's happening, like, what's going on. So I had a patient and a friend and a local businesswoman call me and say, like, you're incredible. No one does what you do. I'm known for really, really natural, undetectable results. And I'm known for my bedside manner and how I connect with my patients. And she said, people know you, they love you, and they finally found their person. And now you're like, you can't leave. She's like, you're going to kill it here. You're so ambitious. And I'm like, I'm not a trust fund kid. Like, where am I going to get money to like build a med spa? And she was like, well, you just built someone else's and you just made it really, like, you made it profitable very quickly. You can do it for yourself. And I'm like, hell yeah, I can. You're right. You're right. And so it was a turning point. The law in South Carolina is very strict for med aesthetics, specifically RNs without a mid-level degree. So it actually states that a nurse practitioner has to be on site while I inject, which means I have to pay someone a lot of money that knows nothing about the aesthetics industry potentially to basically be here, because that's what the law says, because somebody decided to make that law, even though I have extensive credentialing and training. So long story short, I started working 1 day a week and out of a dental practice while I figured out what I was going to do. And I freaking blew up. I took $30,000, got an EMR, got MedMal, onboarded with Galderma, onboarded with MERS. I bought supplies. I got a medical director. I built my SOPs, my protocols, like all this stuff. Built a really crappy website because I don't know how to build a website, and applied to nurse practitioner school, got in, announced that I was opening Refine, and people came out of the woodwork and they were like, this is flipping incredible. You're a baddie. Like, I'm going to support you. People that I never met in Bluffton, like, oh my gosh. And so I would see like 15 patients on a Friday, like boom, 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 which is not really like how I like to operate, but that's the only way people could come see me, right? And so everyone's like, Morgan, you can't work here forever. Like, what are you going to do? I was growing. I was getting brand new organic patients that were coming to this dental office. And I'm like, how did you hear about me? And they were like, oh my gosh, like so-and-so with so-and-so, they said I couldn't go anywhere else, or I just moved here and so-and-so told me. I'm like, this is insane. So then I was like, okay, well, most people build a business and wait for people to come. I have the opposite issue. I have an amazing brand and I have amazing patient care, and I'm like becoming pretty well known, and I have nowhere to put these people. And so I was like, okay, I'll just go get a loan, right? Like, I made decent money. I saved a lot of money. We sold our home. I had perfect credit. We had no debt. And then the bank was like, I'm not giving you a loan. Your business, you haven't been in business for 2 years. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I have a pretty decent amount of money. Same thing with buying a house. Like, you can't buy a house. Anyways. So I said, I had a friend that was very close to me that I value a lot that said, Morgan, because I had patients being like, how much money do you want? Like, I'll write you a check to help you. Like, that's how much I believe in you, which was just like baffling. And my friend said, Morgan, don't take on an investor unless they have something to bring to the table other than money. And I really like held that close to my chest. I'm like, okay, then how the freak am I going to come up with like $400,000 to like build a med spa at minimum, right? What was cool is at this point, I was cash flow positive at the dental office within 1 day. I made my money back in 1 day. Like, it was insane.
Wow.
Or 2 days. But so I was like recycling everything through the business, right? But you have to build a building. So I went and got an SBA loan, which is 20 out of 10 do not recommend, but it got me to where I am, right? And I found a space, and I found an amazing contractor and made a vision come to life. And we built our practice, and we're in it in 3 months, full upfit, opened. We have 3 tiers. We have advanced medical aesthetics, we have functional medicine and wellness, and we have skin rejuvenation. And there are practices doing that in Scottsdale and in LA and maybe in Atlanta, but in Bluffton, no one's really encompassing all 3 tiers, and they're not doing it well. They're not executing it well. And everything that I do works with the other tier. It works very synergistically together. And so our second month, we broke $100,000 with a team. I hired an admin. I hired an esthetician who's young, extremely green, but phenomenal, has so much potential, and a nurse practitioner that's running my functional medicine program. But they don't have established patients, right? And people have just rallied around us and believed in me and my vision. Everyone that worked for me quit their jobs that they were like happy in to come work for me for less money, because they believed in the vision, because they know that we're going to explode and we're going to go so far. But it's been a really humbling experience to to be here. I'm young, I'm 33, and I still just can't believe I'm here, but I have a huge passion for this industry and just so happy to even be here on a daily basis seeing patients.
Incredible. Wow. I didn't know you were that young. Anyways, that's impressive. You know, you told us a lot in that introduction. I want to unpack this a little bit, right? Because it seems like you're already destined to do this, right? You're already on your mission. When did you say, okay, this is the lane that I want to take, the aesthetics lane? When did this happen for you? What really gave it away? Or was it more like you entered into the hustle and you found yourself in this situation? How did it occur?
Sure. So, like, I would say I found my love and my passion for the aesthetics industry in general and plastics, right? But I never had a needle in my hand. At that time, they wanted to be a physician only injection practice. Again, this is a while ago. This is 8 years ago. So, or 7 years ago. And I was just like, okay, great. Like, I could make you a lot of money, but that's fine. And I have a very amicable relationship. I have a wonderful relationship with them to this day. But when that rep called me and I took the job in med aesthetics, and I took off, not effortlessly because I'm a hustler, but month over month I had the highest, sales, I had the highest retail month over month, I had the highest referral month over month because everything in that practice was very streamlined and tracked. And I was like, okay, like this is amazing. And I think that I was really pushed down for my ambition. And I was like, okay, I want to go somewhere that I can like truly lead and they listen to me and they compensate me for the kind of money that I'm making them, because right now this is not happening. So that's kind of what sparked it.
You know, you said something in our prior conversation that really stuck with me. You told me you sell by educating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not really necessarily by selling. How do you actually do that in a consultation setup, right? What does that look like in a room?
So I don't discount anything in my practice. We do not discount at all. Maybe twice a year, and it's probably once in gift cards on Black Friday and another one off. But I am not going to have monthly promotions. I am not going to be the Groupon practice. People come to me for my credentialing because I can pretty much guarantee you an outcome and because of my brutal honesty. And I have learned, because I'm a people pleaser, through a lot of heartache and anxiety, that I am not everyone's cup of tea. And I respect that. But people come to me and they seek me out because they look at me and they say, your skin is beautiful, or you look incredible. I go to so many injectors and they look so overdone. And oftentimes my injector or the injector is a really great indication of what you're going to look like, right? And so they come to me for that. They come to me for my credentialing and then my before and afters and just my reviews, right? So they come to me and they're paying me, or they're asking me my honest opinion on their aging face. And I see patients that are in their late 20s, early 30s, but my bread and butter is probably that 48 to 75 range. Again, we live in a large retirement community, and people come to say, hey, I've literally never done anything to my face, and I'm 60 years old. I've never done anything, but I don't want to look overdone, and I'm so scared, and my husband doesn't know that I'm here, or my husband's mad that I'm here. And I'm scared of filler. That's what everyone says. I'm scared of filler. And I just ask them, I meet them where they are. And I say, well, I have everything there is to have in this face, babe. Everything. And they're like, oh, what? I'm like, yeah, like that's the point. Like I can still move my forehead. I can, but undetectable injectables are the name of my game. And I understand, remember, this Sally is 60, or Jane, whatever, call her. She's never done anything. I said, but you understand that you're not 30 or even 40, nor do you want to look like you're 30 or 40, but you don't feel like you're 60. So I'm here to make you feel a little bit better about the age that you are and be a little bit more confident in your skin. You're not doing this for your husband. You're not doing it for a man. You're not doing it to impress anyone. You're doing it for you and yourself and your self confidence because you used to be beautiful. Not that you still aren't now, because you are. I just meet them where they are, right? And so then I'm educating them. I don't let my patients dictate their plan of care. If they come in and they say, I don't like my marionette lines and my nasolabial fold, great, babe, I don't either. But you've also just lost 40 pounds because you're on Ozempic or trizepatide and your face is fallen. So what I have to do is I have to replace your lateral cheek and your medial cheek. I have to lay the scaffolding. I have to lay a foundation in your face so that when gravity pulls you down, you're not pulling down. I have to treat the root cause, right? So if I go in here, I'm doing you a disservice if I just treat this area. I'm going to make you bottom heavy. You're still going to spend $1,600. You're going to go home and you're going to have buyer's remorse because I'm doing you a disservice because I didn't have that hard conversation first. So we have like a very long rapport. I get to know every single patient. I get to know what they do for a living, what their husband does for a living, how many kids they have, if they have grandkids, where they're originally from, because most people aren't from here. And every single patient gets my cell phone number, whether they do a service with me or not, so that they always have access to me if they have questions, concerns, and I can talk them off a ledge. And I just give them the science behind everything. I give them statistics and outcomes, and they just like trust me implicitly after that. And a lot of the times they don't bat an eye at the price because of the way I present things. And if they do, I write it out. I tell them, hey, you don't have to do anything. This is elective. This is elective. You are beautiful the way that you are, but you are coming to me. I am going to tell you all the tools I have in my toolbox to fix you. And we get to together build a plan of care that makes the most sense for you, your budget, and what your outcome goal is. And 9 times out of 10, if they don't do it that day, they come back.
Amazing. You know, I'm hearing a lot that you've been able to, build yourself through skills, right? You paid a lot of attention, kind of were able to, um, let's say, really submerge yourself in that role, right? To be the student, right? To master something.
Mm-hmm.
Drive, right? You have that just entrepreneurship mindset, and you're gonna go get it. There's nothing that can stop you. I can already feel that. But something very important that resonates a lot with everything you've saying is relationships, right? That really built your pathway. Where do you think these qualities? Where did you inherit these qualities? Is this something that consciously you jump in, or is this just a part of a bigger, let's say, markup of what Morgan is? Let's say.
I think it's a compilation of multiple different things. I think it comes from my upbringing. So, my mom is very big on first impressions, speaking to everyone. Even if you don't know someone and you're walking beside someone on the sidewalk, you look and you smile and you say hello. Even if you don't know them, you acknowledge that person. I used to get in trouble as a child if I didn't do that, because it's common courtesy, right? Grace and courtesy. My dad was the CEO of many companies, and he poured into a lot of people, from a mentorship standpoint and a business standpoint. And he was great at networking. I was an only child, so I grew up around adults only and business dinners. And like, I just think it's naturally innate, ingrained in me. But I'm also just, if you can't tell, a very like bubbly person. I can talk to a wall, and I literally thrive in social settings. So I can make friends with anyone and I can network in literally any scenario. I'm going to find out like what you do, where you live, not because I'm nosy, but because I like genuinely care, and I like learning about other people and their lives and where they come from and what makes them them. And my passion for this industry and helping people and what I do just naturally comes through. And I'm automatically like just networked and got a connection that knows somebody that just offered to become an investor. Like, I cannot tell you how many people have approached me already for franchising in, multiple locations, just because I'm like out there shooting the shit with them. You know what I mean? Because it's like something I like genuinely like love to do.
Amazing. Well, I'll tell you what, from the med spa sector, that people that we have interviewed, the main let's say where they focus their business is exactly in growing relations, right? It's like it's that really guest experience, and it can happen in many ways, but the education piece is a big one. I hear, and also the honesty, right, and being sincere. So yeah, I hear you, and I understand why you're carrying so much success, in everything you do. So you had a fallout in South Carolina. Um, what why did some people might say, okay, I'm out. um, what drove you? What did you see and you said, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm gonna do this myself, right? What was that moment like when you said, no, I am planting my flag here?
There were a couple things. I was clinically trained by trade, right? I was not business by trade. So when I moved here, I learned a lot from the person that I went to work for from a business aspect. They included me a lot in the decision making of the practice, but rightfully so, because like if they didn't, I was kind of building everything that they had. So they learned a lot from me from the clinical aspect, and they're running with that because they're trying to open other clinical practices. And I learned a lot of the business acumen. I was put in a lot of hard conversations, difficult scenarios, but it made me stronger. Like things that would have previously made me uncomfortable. Running a very large staff, making a lot of critical decisions. And I realized, they threatened for me to leave the town. They said, "This is our town, get out." And I said, "Hold my beer. Like, I'm a fiery redhead. I'm really freaking good at what I do. This is my industry. We can play nicely in the sandbox together. There's plenty of patients to go around." Um, and that was the one thing. I like, don't tell me I can't do something. Watch me, right? But not just out of spite. Again, we had the opportunity to go back to Lexington. We had the opportunity to purchase a practice. We had the opportunity. We had so much network there. Like we knew everyone. My husband was born and raised there. I was essentially raised there my entire life. And so we could have gone back, but we felt like the quality of life was better here and the potential for success was better here. And that patient and mentor called me and said, "Morgan, like, there's no one else like you here. You just built someone else's practice in 10 months without knowing anyone. Just do it for yourself this time." And I was like, "You're right. I can do this. It's going to freaking suck. I don't have someone else's money. Got to figure that one out." And then like my patients like blowing up my phone. And I'm like, okay, I already have a patient base. I can make this work. Right. And I did.
Amazing. Amazing. Shariar, I know you have a few questions.
Yeah. So basically, Morgan, your dad ran franchises, and he was a god in his world of these many ventures. So you mentioned about in the pre-podcast call that you lost him 2 years back. How much what you're building today is for him?
I don't think it's for him, but I think that he instilled the work ethic in me, and I watched him pour into a lot of people, free of charge, free consults, because he just enjoyed his work and he was really passionate about what he did and he wanted to help someone else because everyone starts somewhere. Everyone starts at the bottom. And I have done that for the same reasons, and it has paid off tenfold for me, because I'm not doing it to get accolades or for something to come out of it for me, but it has turned out that way. And so I think that a lot of just watching him, and the things that I learned after his passing that people told me and shared with me have been huge. And to this day, he had many friends. We had two best friends that live in Scottsdale, and I have some business opportunities coming down the pike, and we Zoom every week because they're like, "We're going to help you no matter what. Like, we're available to you anytime because your dad was always there for us. So we're going to be there for you." So that's really special.
Awesome. So you were able to make that 100,000 mark, and then you were able to build that venture fully bootstrapped, all organic, completely insane foundation, to hear from someone who's just starting out, his own venture, her own venture. What's the one bottleneck that you think that if you remove that bottleneck, you will be able to double the revenue that you're making right now?
Another injector. I need
Okay, that's
another
interesting.
me. I need another injector because I'm a mom and I've already put a business in front of my family one time. So in life, I feel like I'm a smart female. I learned my lesson and I get a second chance to do better. And you know what? My kids are only little ones. My son just turned 8 this week and I have another one that's 6. I want to be there for them. Yes, they see me work all the time, all at all hours of the day, but I'm never going to miss a soccer game or a baseball game or not put them first. I'm doing that. I'm in nurse practitioner school, which isn't difficult. It's just extremely time consuming when I don't know, trying to build a brand from scratch, from the ground up, and lead a team. I have a phenomenal operations manager who's like my second appendage. So she gets me and we finish each other's sentences and she knows what I'm thinking. So she's able to really help me lead my team. But from a revenue generating perspective, I need another mid level injector that aligns with my vision to help me generate more revenue. But
Really interesting point.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
sacrifice just taking anyone to make myself more money because I have busted my butt to become who I am and have the brand that I am with really high standards and expectations, very strong processes, protocols, and procedures, natural results, and ethical, like telling people no, having difficult decisions, not just filling their face full of filler because they walk through my door and they're worth 200 million because I have some of those people. Being the ethical provider, being the safe, educated provider, I have to find someone that's like that. And guess what? They're like a dime a dozen. You can't find them because they probably already own their other practice, their own practice. So that's really hard, but I'm just not going to sacrifice it. And then you say, okay, well, if you can't find them, what do? You train them. Well, with what time?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there is a really interesting bottleneck to have, Alex. What do you say?
That's probably the most complicated bottleneck to have. I mean, how do you replicate that, right? And I guess that it starts with culture. It doesn't happen overnight. So you're going to have to probably have a transition where you're going to take apprentice in and really get to know exactly the whole Morgan basically. So um, but listen, I think that anybody would be incredibly benefited from doing it. What I don't know is I don't know if it's out there, right? How many people can ambition that this is actually a phenomenal role, right? Looks like it could be. Uh, I mean, how many injectors out there, right? And that's probably my next question. I mean, how many people in the field, or is this a craft, or is this something promoted out there, right? How do you build more?
That's the problem. Will
Right.
have it addressed me for franchising, and I can franchise this all day long, and maybe I will because I've already built another practice and then I built this one, and this one has become, the word is not positive, successful quickly because we have pre-built processes and procedures that we do not deviate from and high expectations, with follow-up and retention and all that stuff. But how do you replicate the talent? Right? It takes a lot of time to pour into someone to make them. So like ideally I would have somebody that would come in that has a pretty strong foundation but isn't so set in their ways,
Mm-hmm.
that's willing to learn and they're willing to do anything to learn because it's expensive to pay for one-off trainings. Like I train patients or providers, but they pay a lot of money for me to train them. And it's worth it for an advanced injector, but for a green injector, it's hard to pay, $4,000 a day for a private training, over and over and over again. So we're
Right.
still working on the replication.
I think that's probably the biggest opportunity, not just market the craft, right? Because I think that maybe people don't know the opportunities that exist, but also being able to have that structure, that curriculum, right? That can actually teach people how to do it and do it right. Um, so quite interesting because and that we can pivot into technology now, because you were able to let's say build a foundation of this business in warp speed, right? It's like all of a sudden you came in. You told me a little bit about you're using Claude every day to set up your SOPs to kind of how did AI help you during this process, right? Have you been using AI for a while now? Was it instrumental? How did it maybe help you in the building some of the pillars of at least that operational aspect of the business?
Yeah, so I definitely think from experience, I have all this knowledge in my brain, right? And I have frameworks of random facets of things. So whether that's I know what I want my retention strategy to be for my team, like my percentage. I know, how much all of my cost of goods are. I know what my services are and how I want them to flow and be presented. But what I did and what AI has really helped me do is I've been so intentional in building this brand and keeping it brand consistent that it helps me. I use it a lot and used it a lot in learning my tone of voice and learning my brand and setting up the back end of my business when it comes to my EMR and CRM for service descriptions and our service menu. And I paid a company to help me with my SOPs and my protocols because they're just so time intensive. But like I used AI, if they had something that was so off the wall, that was like California law based or something that does really not apply in South Carolina, I would use AI to kind of edit that and kind of framework it more to be tailored to my business to go into my employee handbook. Um, as for my other injectors commission structure and our benefits package and, you know, hey, these are my costs. This is what I'm getting, helping me to develop profit margins and understanding from a financial aspect. Okay, I have this much on my loan. I have this much in my checking account. We're cash flow positive. This is how much is left over. Work like a financial advisor and tell me, how do I pay down this debt, or do I take the debt and use it as positive and put it into something else? Lots of things like that. And do I take it as 100% all the time? No, but I have a little bit of knowledge, right? And I use it to help me lay the foundation to build whatever I'm trying to build.
How much attention the aesthetic sector, right? Med spas, let's say, invest, right? Or how much are they involved in having social media presence? Is this a crucial aspect of your business, or you rely more on word of mouth, or do you understand that maybe the next step of scaling is embracing that vehicle of your brand recognition in social media?
1 in 3. So yes, I absolutely rely on word of mouth, but Instagram is part of the word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram has been my biggest tool. I'm a millennial. So, Instagram's our thing. For the newer generation, TikTok's their thing. I'm on TikTok, but it's not great. But I have a mixture of education and funny, trendy stuff, but it's always comes down to education, patient first. And
Right.
I want to exude excellence in everything that I say and that I do. And so I don't mind being on camera. I don't mind taking photos, but I definitely had to put myself out there on social media so that people learned who I was. And it served me well. Bluffton is a small town. Granted, we pull from Hilton Head and Bluffton and a little bit of the outskirts, but it's pretty small, about 40,000 people. And everyone our age runs in similar circles, or my age and my husband's age, because we are young business entrepreneurs. A lot of my friends are, and we all have kids the same age. And so we're at a lot of the similar outings, but I'll go out and someone will introduce me to someone and they will say, "Oh my gosh, are you Aesthetically Morgan? I follow you on Instagram." Or people will come to us and say, because I make my team, I have to know what my lead generation is. Like, how did you hear about us? Oh, I've followed her on Instagram for forever. People also follow me on Instagram, say they hear about me word of mouth, or they find me on Google because now I'm ranking, because that takes forever. And I didn't have that SEO Google footprint for a long time, because that takes time. We're just now starting to rank on Google, 1, 2, 3, best med spa, Bluffton, best Botox. Not because we aren't the best, but because, that stuff takes time. But even when people are Googling me, then they're going to my Instagram or my social media because they type in my name and I pop up, and then they're credentialing the shit out of me. Like, where did I go to school? How long have I been in this industry? What am I known for? They're reading my reviews. That really sets me apart too. But a lot of the stuff I do on Instagram is also very, like, I don't sugarcoat how hard I work. I don't sugarcoat what I've gone through. And I talk about the real stuff that everyone goes through, but no one talks about. Other people just think, oh, like, med spas are like all about money and vanity. And no, like, I tell real stories about how I've changed people's lives and I make them cry in a good way, because, I took an extra 5 minutes out of my day to slow down and educate them. So that was a really long answer to tell you social media has been a very large part of my growth, and AI has contributed to that brand consistency exponentially. Because before, I used to be like, oh, this looks pretty, but now it like has to match my brand colors on my grid. And like now I have colors that like start with a hashtag with like numbers and letters, and I'm like, what is that? I never knew that before I was a business owner. So it's helped tremendously.
Great. I have one more question, and maybe Sharia has one more to close. I know we're getting closer to the time, but speaking of your industry, when you look at your industry, holistically, what tools, or let's say, what is the biggest problem that you can see in your industry that there isn't a tool yet that exists that is able to solve it, if there's any? And seems like, from what I've heard, is that probably human resource is the biggest hurdle right now in growing this industry. But is there any aspect of the business that you say, wait a minute, if we had this, it would grow quicker, or it would be faster, right? It would be better.
Maybe some sort of, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on how I could make my business better, but it all revolves around education.
Right.
So it's more so of just like me having the knowledge and the skills of how to utilize what's already out there to build what I need to build. So for me, that looks like a full-blown education program. And so I'm actually building that. I'm a trainer. I'm training my nurse practitioner. I'm getting ready to have a shadow day on May 5th, and then I'm hosting 12 injectors at my practice on the 6th to teach them about hyperdural radius, which is my passion. My goal is to have a training program one day, like I was going to have at the previous practice that was kind of taken from me. And, but I would say, like, having the know-how to utilize the tools that already exist in AI to build that out, that could help me scale quicker, because then I could train the people that I said, hey, I need an injector. I need to be able to train them. I can't brain dump enough of my brain onto paper or I don't take the time to do it, right? Like, because I'm a doer and I'm like an alpha and I can run like 5 laps around somebody in the time it takes them to like go get a glass of water. I'm a doer. So if I could like slow down enough to be like, hey, this is why you do this. I don't know if that's a good enough answer for you, but that's
No, yeah. From what I gather, maybe it's time to build a Morgan AI.
let's go.
A model that can have everything, all the information you have. So when anybody is in need of good advice, they can have you in an app. So. Uh, Anyways, Morgan, I have one more last question, and it's more related to, what is the best piece of advice that anybody has offered you that has allowed you to, let's say, um, find so much success, or find success so young, uh, as of now.
I would say there's like 3 or 4 things that are just like my driving force. And this may sound cliche, but I tell this to my team, I tell this to my kids, I tell this to my husband, and I will say this forever. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Yeah.
So if I would have let them run me out of town and intimidate me, and I wouldn't have said, this is the second, F it, do it, like, I have no other option other than to succeed. I refuse to fail. I'm going to do it. And that's what kind of makes like entrepreneurs and like psychopaths, type A people like me, like work, is that if I don't know how to do something, I'm going to figure it out. Not everyone is like that. I understand. I'm learning that. But those are like 2 things, you miss out, like take every opportunity. Don't let somebody push you down. And just don't freaking give up. Like, life is going to come no matter what. Like, shit's going to happen to you. My dad passed away very tragically out of nowhere in a car accident, or not a car accident, a bicycling accident. And it, again, is very cliche, but people say, oh, it's never going to happen to me. It's going to happen to you. It's just not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And then it's a matter of figuring out in your brain if you're going to allow massive moments like that of me uprooting my life and then walking away from something that I built, if you're going to let it break you or if you're going to let it make you stronger. A lot of people would have gone into a severe depression or played the victim and felt like poor, pitiful me. No, I turned it around and put my energy into building something incredible that will, other than my children, be my greatest accomplishment ever, is having that option of choosing whether to rise or fall. So I would say, like, go for it.
Yeah. Well, it seems like the most difficult, moments in your life have really, you made the turn to make the best out of that, of those situations. So, congratulations on that, Morgan. And listen, it was a pleasure to have this conversation today. We're super excited for your success, and and to maybe see you expand across the nation. Anything that we can support, we're here for you, and we'd love to maybe have this conversation again in the future.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Amazing. Thank you, Morgan.